All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're looking at PMOS, fixing a medical misnomer, and we're going to unpack a massive, truly global movement that is actively rewriting medical history for millions of women worldwide. We really have to start with a startling question. What happens when a famous medical label turns out to be scientifically flawed? I mean, imagine carrying a diagnosis that dictates your healthcare, your lifestyle, and your future, only to find out the very words used to describe it are just fundamentally wrong. To put the scale of this into perspective, we are talking about 170 million. The condition we've previously known as Polycystic Ovary Syndrome, or PCOS, affects an astounding 170 million women globally during their reproductive years alone. That's 1 in 8 women. Yet for decades, the name itself has essentially been a total misnomer. And this isn't just some nitpicky semantic issue. This inaccurate label has been causing real-world harm, delaying diagnoses, and completely fracturing clinical care.
For the longest time, doctors viewed this condition through a super narrow, strictly gynecological lens. The old name, Polycystic Ovary Syndrome, literally implies you have pathological cysts on your ovaries. But the reality? It's a complex, multi-system condition, impacting the endocrine system, metabolism, and even psychology. The old name just entirely missed the big picture. It's like looking at a giant puzzle and only focusing on a single corner piece.
The medical and social harms of that old name are honestly profound. Those cysts the name refers to, they aren't actually pathological tumors at all. They're simply arrested follicles, basically eggs that just didn't fully develop. And because of this massive misunderstanding, up to a staggering 70% of affected individuals remain completely undiagnosed. People literally slip through the cracks because they don't fit into this narrow cyst-focused definition. Plus, the hyper-focus on reproduction reinforces a deep cultural stigma, especially in societies where fertility carries immense social weight. Modern science, however, paints a very different picture of what's actually happening in the body. This is a multi-system disorder, deeply rooted in genetics. It's polygenic. It's driven heavily by deep metabolic disturbances and abnormal hormone levels, not just a localized, isolated ovarian issue. And the data shows us something incredible. Insulin resistance and the body's massive overproduction of insulin to compensate for it are present in roughly 85% of affected individuals. That even includes, actually wait, get this, it includes 75% of lean women with the condition too. It's a metabolic and endocrine issue first and foremost, which then drives the reproductive symptoms, not the other way around. So to fix this massive historical blind spot, an unprecedented global uprising was launched. We are talking about 56 leading organizations representing 195 countries coming together. Using rigorous global consensus methods, patients and health professionals basically shared power equally to demand a name that was actually scientifically accurate. Now, when surveying what a new name actually needed to accomplish, a truly fascinating divide opened up. Health professionals, understandably, prioritized scientific accuracy. About 86% wanted a name reflecting true human biology. But for the patients, their absolute top priority was stigma avoidance. They desperately needed a name that stripped away the crushing cultural stigma attached specifically to fertility and reproduction. This led to a really interesting and honestly kind of funny hurdle during the international workshops. A top candidate for the new name was Endocrine Metabolic Ovulatory Syndrome. It hit all the right scientific notes. But when they looked at the acronym, PMOS, it was abruptly scrapped. Why? Because it humorously, yet problematically, overlapped with the emo youth subculture. Marketing experts were basically like, yeah, let's maybe not use a name that makes people think of teenage angst and romantic despair instead of a serious medical condition. Ultimately, after exhaustive global voting, a final consensus was reached. Let's deconstruct this new name word by word, starting with the first piece, polyendocrine. This word was chosen because it perfectly captures the systemic hormonal origins of the syndrome. It tells the world right off the bat that this isn't just about one hormone or one organ. It encompasses multiple interacting abnormalities across the entire body, including insulin, androgens, and neuroendocrine hormones. Building on that, we have the second word, metabolic. This was absolutely vital because it forces doctors and patients to acknowledge the severe long-term health risks associated with the condition. We're talking type 2 diabetes, fatty liver disease, and a significantly increased risk of cardiovascular issues. It shifts the entire focus toward long-term, whole-body health.
Finally, the third word, ovarian. This accurately encompasses the reproductive features and the follicular disturbances that women experience throughout their lives. But notice what is brilliantly missing here, the word cyst. By completely dropping the misleading polycystic terminology, they removed the false implication of pathological cysts, while still honoring the very real ovulatory dysfunction that patients face.
So, bringing it all together, we arrive at the new global standard, PMOS, or Polyendocrine Metabolic Ovarian Syndrome. This new name successfully solves the scientific inaccuracies of the past. It offers an evolutionary rebranding that sounds just familiar enough to the old acronym to actually get adopted, but is accurate enough to represent a massive, real-world victory for patient advocacy and medical science.
But, a new name doesn't mean anything if doctors don't actually use it. This isn't just some theoretical paper. There is a concrete, co-designed, 8-stage blueprint for global implementation. Phase 1 is happening right now. It involves worldwide academic publication, building multilingual resources, and launching a massive global communication strategy. Crucially, it involves getting into the very plumbing of modern medicine, updating electronic health records worldwide to use the term PMOS.
Moving into Phase 2, this roadmap proves that PMOS is becoming a concrete standard. They aren't messing around. They're aligning with government policies, research funders, and working directly with the World Health Organization for official ICD classification. They've mapped out a highly managed 3-year transition period, all designed to culminate in the seamless integration of PMOS into the 2028 international guidelines, which dictate care across 195 countries.
At the end of the day, this monumental health policy shift isn't just about updating a few textbooks. The stated goals of this entire movement are greater awareness, enhanced diagnoses, and significantly improved care quality. It's about correcting a historical neglect to elevate the daily lives and health outcomes for over 170 million people. As we wrap up this explainer, the PMOS story leaves us with a truly fascinating thought about how the language we use actively shapes the medicine we practice. If a misnomer this massive hid in plain sight for decades, affecting hundreds of millions of women, what other widely accepted diagnoses are secretly hiding behind scientifically flawed names? What else needs a 21st century update? It's definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive.